It looks like the bus turnaround area is almost complete. The diagonal retaining wall is all but covered with dirt. And now that is nearly done, it's time to dig a ditch for the storm rainwater pipes to be laid from manhole to manhole. Of course, the ditch runs into the other tip of the diagonal retaining wall. Note the use of the trench box for safety to prevent the collapse of the ditch or the trench sides on any workmen in the ditch. It was another foggy day, so we don't know when the concrete pump, got here to start the big pour, but it's about 5 p.m. now and it's still pumping. The first photo is a little different in that it shows the delivery arm stretched all the way out. The four stabilizer feet and the hopper add to the horizontal stretch. If you add the length of the concrete mixers in, I think that's about 80 yards. The pour was in all the gym areas. Shown in the second photo are, surprise, another Baker tank, brought in the fog. The old blue one remains just sitting in the equipment storage area. It looks like a large blue dark box was brought in also. Based on where they are sitting, they might have something to do with water filtering. Another small office portable now sits in the bus lanes. By far the major activity today was removing forms from the new footings and foundations, which were from yesterday's big pour. This means lots of prying and pounding and later stacking. No other jobs by other workmen were being done today. But, as seen, or not seen, in the photo, the workman who did come to work this Saturday quickly disappeared just before the shot was taken. Something different was seen up by the boiler room. The first photo shows a large black truck spewing, no, sowing some special dirt or gravel into the areas around the footings. It was doing so at a reasonably quick rate. Lots was going on in the south end of the field. The old Baker tank, blue, was moved over to the area of the new Baker tank, green. As you can see in the second photo, also of note, the four large filters that have just been sitting there waiting to be used were dropped onto a small flatbed truck and trucked off to who knows. This was after a smaller four-filter set had been brought in to replace the larger set. In the far southeast corner, the tallest manhole is starting to look like a castle turret or tower. A few weeks ago, I was wondering if there would be any significant water treatment on the way to Tibbetts Creek. Now we know. Yes, for sure. MC Escher stopped by this afternoon and took this picture. No, not really. But if he did, the picture might look like this. Escher, as most know, is the artist that was extremely tight with his renderings and loose with his imagination. He's the one who did the guys climbing the stairs and getting nowhere. I thought that, for a change of pace, I'd do some Photoshop a la Escher this afternoon. The foggy morning didn't seem to delay the start of another pour. At first, in the classroom area around the edges of where they last poured there, and then down on the south side, just outside of the phys ed area. That work was done by 1 p.m. and the boom left. The third photo shows where the various offices are along the bus lanes, starting with Cornerstone on the northwest corner. A sixth, smallest office is to the right, just outside of the photo edge. This image was from the Cascade dining room. By the end of the workday, a flatbed truck came into the gate. Its load was a large girder truss or two, which I thought went with the tall American crane. But what happened next was the American crane was lowered and disassembled, and it slowly left the premises, leaving the trusses there on the ground. Two more items of note today. The four smaller filter tanks were not to be seen. They must still be there somewhere, it's just we can't see them. And the large diagonal retaining wall in the bus turnaround area was unearthed after smoothing everything around it down. My guess is that it needs about a half-foot taken off the top. This will then make a smooth transition from the turnaround to the first storm drain. On the other hand, I could be way wrong seeing it from just one point of view. That was 3:27 p.m. It really did leave after most of the work crew had gone home. But guess what? This morning, another crane was there to take the place of the one that left last evening. But guess what? In the same place as the other crane, it says American. Incidentally, they had a heck of a time getting the two halves of the truss beam to align. So they got some dirt, spread it under one side of the tractor cab half. So when the two tried making the connection again, they did. It worked. Note the signal flag on top of the new crane. Incidentally, number 2, a while back I wrote that the diagonal retaining wall in the bus turnaround area was too high in comparison to everything else. It was covered over. Yesterday, I noticed that it had been unearthed. I wondered if they had discovered what I had guessed. They had. Early this morning, an excavator was ripping the wooden beam part of the wall out. Cutting the vertical I-beams will be harder to do. I got one guess right. The Ralph's concrete boom pump got here early, or maybe the concrete mixing trucks were a little late. The pour was in the area above the Great Wall and was completed well before noon. The one thing that was new and different today was to catch in one image 3 puddle jumpers. I referred to them as puddle jumpers because of my childhood memories of a family vehicle named that my dad built out of scrap parts from the Douglas Aircraft Surplus Store. We made Popular Mechanics. Enough about that. About an hour after this photo was taken, the orange 4-passenger puddle jumper, X in the picture, was loaded onto a flatbed and taken away. All 3 vehicles looked like they had been run through the car wash, a first for that. Some of the extreme south end past the vault was covered with white visqueen, presumably to keep it dry when the rains come this weekend. Really nothing to report. A maximum of 20 workmen today, most all working on the foundation in the classroom phys ed areas, such as construction of forms or removal of forms from new concrete foundations.